Hi, I'm Dr. Scott Werner, and today I'm going to do Module 2, the fastest way to keep weight off. This is for the Easy Weight Loss system that you may have purchased. Others can view this and understand about weight loss. The interesting thing I've done over the years is when I had cancer, I actually lost by doing a parasite cleanse 40 pounds. Now that was 40 pounds of tumors and parasites. Now I was 260 pounds, I'm 6'1", and I was 60 pounds overweight. I got down to about 220 and stayed there for years. And I believe it was due to chronic stress. All of us have a lot of stress. And stress can dampen our immune system, increase cortisol levels, make us have belly fat, and cause all kinds of illnesses. When our immune system goes down, we get parasites, we get fungus, we get toxins in our body, and our body just can't get rid of them. And so we get chronic inflammation. And some of that chronic inflammation may be due to viruses that come in due to the dampening of our immune system. So a lot of psychics and very smart people are saying that our immune systems have been damaged with all the toxins, the parasites, the fungus, and the viruses that get in our system. When you get bacteria in your system, you get a pretty severe fever and different problems, and you'll usually head into the doctor and get on antibiotics. Now these antibiotics will get rid of the bacterial infection, but they don't help our immune system. They do save our life, but antibiotics actually create an environment where the parasites and the fungus and the viruses can even get deeper in your system. Now, in the 1970s and 80s, kids got a lot of immune problems. By immune problems, I mean we got chronic earaches, chronic sinusitis, chronic inflammatory bowel disease. And the doctors would treat these with antibiotics and drive the fungus even deeper into the system. So today, we're going to talk about this because we're getting way too many sugars, way too much stress, and it creates a great environment for parasites, fungus, and virus to get into the immune system and cause chronic inflammatory diseases. Now, one of the problems we're having, I just read this statistic the other day, 60% of the population here in the United States, including children, are diagnosed with a chronic inflammatory disease. And the doctors, they don't know what's causing these diseases, but they're treating them with anti-inflammatories, steroids, chemotherapy, all kinds of different things. I was really surprised when they started treating rheumatoid arthritis as if it was a cancer, and they would treat it with chemotherapy. And this chemo actually damages the immune system further and makes it more difficult for our immune system to kick these bugs out. So, the fastest way to keep weight off, believe it or not, is reduce your stress and strengthen your immune system by getting rid of these bugs, because once they get into the immune system, they cause these chronic inflammatory diseases which keep a lot of weight on us. When our cells are inflamed, they can retain up to 60, 80, 100% more fluid within the cells themselves. And this abnormal swelling and inflammation causes pain, causes further problems, and we tend to eat food to compensate because we're always in pain, and so we need to do something that makes us happy, gives us pleasure. Sugar not only gives us pleasure, but it feeds these bugs, and then they poop and cause more inflammation. So there's a thing called aflatoxins with fungus, and when they eat, they release these aflatoxins, A-F-L-O-T-O-X-I-N-S, aflatoxins. Google it, and you'll find it's a fungal toxin that is produced by fungus, chronic candida or chronic aspergillosis, You know, we're having more and more problems with black fungus, brown funguses, different types of fungus that are hitting our systems and making us have asthma, chronic heart disease, chronic inflammation. They get also into the brain and cause brain fog and chronic, earlier Alzheimer's comes on. It makes it more difficult for the nervous system to work properly because the fungus actually creates a neural net. If you look at fungus under a microscope, it's got these little hyphae that stick out. They look kind of like a neuron. A neuron is the cell in the brain that has the little dendrites, and they communicate and keep our memories and help our nervous system work. And fungus looks like a neural net. In fact, they create a neural net and make us crave sugars, make us crave foods that aren't necessarily good for us. And they do this because they want to feed, they want to survive, they want to live. So one of the ways we can help get rid of this chronic craving is get rid of the fungus and the parasites for that matter, because parasites can also communicate. Fungus causes us to be angry too. It causes emotions that make us not get along. And so if you've got memory problems, chronic anger problems, you may have fungus. If you have anxiety, panic, poor sleep, a lot of emotional stuff going on in your brain all the time, you might have parasites. So getting rid of these things helps you lose weight. So let's talk about that a little bit. Number one, let's talk about removing parasites. I found that parasites, people don't really understand their life cycle, and so they'll kill them off and then they'll stop. They won't do another parasite cleanse. And then the eggs hatch from these parasites because the parasite cleanses don't kill the eggs. The eggs hatch, they grow up, and they lay more eggs, and then you're back at square one. So you have to do cycling with parasite cleansing. And the eggs won't hatch if you're on a parasite cleanse. So it's good to do a parasite cleanse for 10 days to 2 weeks, and then go off for, 10 to 20 days, and then hit them again. If they're the little teeny microscopic parasites, such as amoebas, protozoans, you need to do the parasite cleanses much more quickly. Go off for only 10 days and then hit them again. Most parasites that are microscopic, that are single cell, you can do 10 days of a parasite cleanse, 10 days off, 10 days on, 10 days off, and have some expert who is intuitive test how many cycles you need. I've had people who need upwards of 20 cycles of parasite cleansing to totally eradicate these particular parasites out of your system. I've done a parasite cleanse every 3 months for the last 26 years. Of course, I had cancer, cancel the cancer energy. I don't want that energy even around me. And so I keep doing a parasite cleanse every 3 months just to make sure my body's cleaned up. Hulda Clark recommended you do a parasite cleanse twice a year, in the fall and in the spring, and that way you won't get colon cancer or other problems. She found that doing it spring and fall is a good thing to do. However, if you've got those parasites deep in your system and you're overweight, you should do the parasite cleanses much more frequently and not give them a chance to get a foothold back into your body. We have a easy parasite cleanse on our website at choosingeasy.org, which works very well for most parasites humans get. The other parasite cleanse I use a lot of is Hulda Clark's original parasite cleanse with the black walnut, wormwood, cloves, and I use plant enzymes rather than the zapper because the plant enzymes break down the mucus and the barriers our body walls off around the parasites, causing tumors and cysts. And the plant enzymes break that down, and you can use super enzymes, but you've got to use something that has cellulase in, because the cellulase breaks down that cell wall and breaks down the mucus around the parasites. And I use liver cleansing agents because our liver has to detox our body from all the parasites. Parasites take on some of our toxic pollutant load, also the herbicides, pesticides, those kind of things, and so they release that, and the liver is the main organ which gets rid of them, and the kidneys. And we're seeing a lot more liver and kidney problems nowadays. More people are on dialysis than ever before, and it's due to kidney failures, due to these toxins that get in the body. They're very hard on the nephrons, which are the main units within our kidneys. And you can heal the nephrons if we get rid of these toxic heavy metals and toxic herbicides and pesticides. And that's one of the other things we need to do is remove toxins from the body. Now, one of the best ways of doing this is, what I do is I put people on a parasite cleanse and then put them on an agent that chelates out these heavy metals and toxins that are in our bodies. And this helps assist the body to cleanse and get the weight down, because the toxins are very inflammatory too to our body, and they keep our body from healing, they keep our immune system from working appropriately. So anyway, let's move on quickly. Chelating agents, systemic formulas has the CLNZ, Innovita has Tox-X and Meta-X, and then there's these products like Metal and Toxin Cleanse and other deep cleansing agents that get heavy metals, oral chelate, different types of things. Heart plus Detox is a good one that was formulated about 14 years ago and works very well for getting heavy metals and toxins out of the body. A lot of times it's good to do the toxin detoxing at night, because it is hard on the kidneys and liver to remove these toxins and makes you tired. And it's okay to be tired at night while you're sleeping. So I usually do a dose at bedtime and do the parasite cleansing during the day, and then another dose of removing the toxins. And we do it the entire time you're doing a parasite cleanse. Now, let's talk about fungus a little bit. I like to do antifungals in between the parasite cleanses, because they're different enough that the babies will hatch. The parasite, the larger parasites and the microscopic parasites will actually hatch out of their eggs while you're removing the fungus. And it's really good to get fungus gone because it stops those cravings. Fungus, if you think about it, eats sugars, and they can drive your blood sugar level down and create what we call hypoglycemia, where you get really angry and you have ferocious appetite. You have to eat something. And so if you're having problems with this, more than likely you have fungus. Now, hypoglycemia can be caused by other problems too. Bacterial infections can cause it, but usually bacterial infections, especially in diabetes, will shoot the sugars up. But fungus will make you hypoglycemic and eat all your sugars. So in between parasite cleanses, I'll remove fungus and continue removing toxins, because fungus can hold some of our toxic load. The toxins, again, are herbicides, pesticides, different chemicals that get into our system, and heavy metals. So it's important to do these things. And number one, remove the parasites, cycle with it, remove fungus. Number two, remove the fungus. Number three, remove the toxins. Now, number four is remove inflammation. Now, parasites, fungus, and the toxins can cause inflammation, but more often than not, they cause our immune systems to go down. And it's interesting because a lot of doctors, rheumatologists, are treating inflammation with chemotherapy, which basically knocks down our inflammatory response to infection, to these viruses, these fungus, these parasites. And so as you look at it logically, it's making it easier for these things to stay in your body, because your body can't remove them, because you're using all these anti-inflammatory drugs that knock down your immune response. So what I've found is, if you can remove the parasites, fungus, and toxins and work on viruses, it'll remove the inflammation naturally. And you want to boost your immune system so that it removes these toxic substances. It makes it easier for your immune system, your organs, to remove these things. I found that in helping the body remove inflammation, it's very important you help the organs of elimination. In other words, the liver, the lymph, the digestive system, especially the colon, and help the kidneys. Our breathing is actually very important for eliminating toxins, but it's mainly volatile toxins that actually turn into aerosols that can be removed from your body. And by improving all of your organs of elimination, the skin is also an organ of elimination, so you can use sweat baths and infrared saunas and different ways that way will help remove toxins from the body. So let's talk about removing inflammation a little bit. We've talked about the parasites, fungus, and toxins, but let's talk about these little viruses. Virus material is DNA and RNA and retroviruses, which have been made mainly in the lab, and we all know which ones those are. But removing viruses and inflammation is very important. One of the ways I've found to remove chronic inflammation, believe it or not, is taking vitamin D, vitamin C, and vitamin K. These three vitamins are very good at reducing inflammation because they reduce the amount of toxins in our body and help us fight viruses. So another one is taking arginine and ornithine together. Hulda Clark used to use those to help with parasite cleansing, and I've found they're very helpful in reducing inflammation and increasing nitrous oxide in the body, which is very good for your circulation. Personally, I've been doing a lot of treatment with an arteritis vasculitis protocol. Now, arteritis just means inflammation of the arteries. Vasculitis just means inflammation of the blood vessels. And we, as a population, are getting more and more of this. I actually developed this protocol specifically for people with inflammatory diseases, because if it removes inflammation in the arteries and veins, it'll remove it in the entire body. Now, that protocol, in that protocol, you use internal enzymes. Now, the two internal enzymes that are most common are nattokinase and serrapeptase. These two actually take and go in and remove plaque. They remove inflammatory areas in the body and actually help it to heal. Serrapeptase is very good for internal scarring, and so it removes scar tissue internally also. And I give a antifungal, an antibacterial, and an antiviral while we're doing this inflammation, so to remove these different inflammatory products. The reason why I've had to use the antifungal, antibacterial, and antiviral is we have these bugs called atypical bacteria, mycoplasma, ureaplasma, different chlamydia. You know, chlamydia is a big problem. It's there's several types of chlamydia, but the main one is sexually transmitted. However, there's so much oral sex going on that chlamydia gets transmitted into the lungs and the upper respiratory system and can cause quite a few problems. And Helicobacter pylori is a huge problem that causes inflammatory disease, and back in the 70s, the Australians actually did research that showed Helicobacter pylori and other atypical infections cause heart disease. And you don't hear a lot about this because the medical industry here in the United States wanted to manage heart disease surgically rather than medically with antibiotics killing these inflammatory bacteria. Now, atypical bacteria can live inside the cells, so they're almost a cross between virus and bacteria. So in order to remove these from the cells, that's why I use antivirals. And the number 5 stabilizer from systemic formulas actually assists the body in removing DNA and RNA viruses from the cells so that they can be removed out of the body. So the number 5, I use it with this protocol, this inflammatory protocol. So the arteritis vasculitis protocol, I should call it, and taking mega doses of vitamin C and bioflavonoids. Bioflavonoids are very good for assisting the body to remove viruses and atypical bacteria. So you want to get at least 500 milligrams of bioflavonoids 3 times a day with 2 grams of vitamin C 3 times a day. It's getting up to 6 grams a day, which is very good as far as inflammation. Vitamin C, you need to get your levels up that high to reduce the inflammation. And the bioflavonoids are essential. Magnesium is also a very essential element to help reduce inflammation. Potassium, very important to remove inflammation and assist the cells, because when our cells get so swollen, they actually lose potassium from inside the cells, which causes further swelling. So magnesium and potassium are very important. We get too much sodium. The reason table salt isn't good for you is because it's got sodium chloride, and the chloride tends to be a toxin and inflammatory. It's a very volatile free radical producer. Chloride is, and so I like real salt because it has less chloride in it, has more potassium and less sodium, and it's got all the other elements in it also. So using real salt is important to help remove inflammation, increasing your magnesium levels, increasing your potassium levels. Another thing that is very good for inflammatory disease is resveratrol. Resveratrol comes from grape skins, and it's in red wine, but there's not enough of it in red wine. So I recommend 50 milligrams of resveratrol once a day to remove inflammation. Another really good one is grapeseed extract, and it comes from grape seeds, and it helps remove inflammation from the body. So these different things are very good. Superfoods, very good to remove inflammation from the body because they're high in antioxidants, they're high in vitamins, high in nutrients that our body needs to remove the inflammation. So I suggest to people to do superfoods such as chia seeds, goji berries, hemp seeds. There's all kinds of really good superfoods, and I'm not going to mention all here because I don't have time, but using those helps keep your weight off, it helps keep the inflammation down, very good for your body. It also assists your immune system. Boosting the immune system, to me, is much more important than reducing the immune system. Our immune system, the reason our immune system attacks the cells is because it's got this abnormal atypical bacteria in or virus in, and our body's actually attacking it and trying to remove it, but it can't because the immune system is so bogged down with the heavy metals and toxins and fungus and parasites that it has a very difficult time. So you get these chronic inflammatory states where the cells go in, they try to remove the toxins, try to remove the virus and atypical bacteria, and those cells actually die because they get infected by these bugs. And so it's a chronic inflammatory process that just continues on and on and on. So if we can get our cells to remove those viruses and atypical bacteria instead of just chronically getting reinfected, we can help remove the core cause of the inflammation. And that's my primary focus, is to remove the core cause of the inflammation rather than just make our immune system stop working properly to reduce the inflammation. In the long run, it's much better to remove the core cause. Now, it takes time. A lot of people don't realize this, but it took a long time to get these things into our body, and we've been getting them in since the 50s, because DDT came out in the 50s, and it stays around for a very long time. I actually worked for a law firm that defended Monsanto against Agent Orange and dioxin. These toxins were sprayed for years on the different utility poles to keep the plants from growing around them. You know, we hear about it mainly in Vietnam, but it was actually sprayed here in the United States much more than we want to think. And there was this huge lawsuit of people suing Monsanto because of this. And it ended up being buried because they settled with everybody and didn't want the information out. But I found that these herbicides are very toxic to our system. The Gulf has this huge, the Gulf of Mexico has this huge area they call the dead zone. And the reason it's a dead zone is all these herbicides and pesticides, different chemicals have come down the Mississippi River, and they've spread out in the Gulf and caused this dead zone because they kill, you know, in concentrations that are enough to make humans very, very sick, even kill us. They kill the fish, they kill everything around them. So we need to be very careful and remove these toxins from our body. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is sugars. Sugars have been put in all of our processed foods to make them taste better. They've actually removed a lot of the taste because when food is dead, it doesn't have a lot of flavor. And so they add these excitogens to make it more flavorful and add sugar to make it more desirable. And so processed foods are very toxic for our body because they feed fungus and they've got chemicals in that raise our toxic level. So I highly recommend to eat organic fruits and vegetables that haven't been sprayed and hopefully have less toxins, because you know you've always got the winds blowing the pesticides and herbicides in different areas, and keep off of sugar. Sugar includes breads, pastas, because they're carbohydrates, they're starches, and they break down into sugars in our body, and they actually will feed the fungus and feed the parasites. And so reducing the amount of sugars in your diet helps you lose weight, because you're not feeding and making stronger these different pests and fungus. And the sugar has actually been shown to diminish your immune system. Some studies have shown up to 18-24 hours after eating a sugar load, your body's immune system has a real rough time. And I believe it's because you're feeding the pests and allow them to make the immune system have trouble. So to remove inflammation, reduce your sugar and carbohydrate starch intake. I know this is difficult because our diets are shaped with these things, and we have been eating these things for 40, 50 years, and we've gotten away from organic gardens and vegetables and fresh fruit. That's another disturbing thing, is they've actually got these, they take and irradiate the fruits and vegetables so they can stay fresh for years. And you may be buying something in your market that has been irradiated without your knowledge, and it's dead. And so the sugars in it will just feed fungus, and the vitamins have all been killed off and changed by the radiation. So, you know, this is a very controversial subject, and I'm probably going to raise some hairs talking about it, but it's very important for us to eat as fresh of food as we can that has not been irradiated. Now, another little thing that I'm going to talk about that causes inflammation is the hybridization of our wheat. They've hybridized the wheat, which means they've genetically crossed the different wheat types to make super wheat, which is resistant to rust and mold and the different funguses. Well, if the rust and mold and different funguses don't like it, don't even want to eat it, something may be wrong with that. And they've actually found that it has these long chain protein that we can't break down in our body, and our body can react to it right within the intestines. And these are called glutens. Glutens are in the husks of the different wheat products. And so, years ago I could eat whole wheat and it wouldn't cause me any digestive problems. But now when I eat this hybridized whole wheat, I actually get more gas, more difficulty with my digestion. And my wife is totally gluten sensitive. So she just gets exposed to a little bit and it causes severe bloating and gas and pain in her belly. So she's had to go to a gluten-free diet. Now these glutens are in wheat products, mainly barley and wheat and rye and different products. So if you eat these products and you get bloating and gas, you may have a gluten sensitivity. Now one of the ways to reduce the gluten sensitivity is to remove toxins and help your inflammatory response to be more normal. Also getting rid of fungus, because the combination of glutens and the fungus die off, because fungus doesn't like the glutens either. They'll produce lots of aflatoxins and have a reaction within your body and produce an even worse reaction. So removing the parasites, removing the fungus, removing toxins, removing the inflammation and the wheat products that cause inflammation in our digestive system. And if you get leaky gut, these glutens can leak into your body and cause inflammation throughout your body. So I'm just reviewing that it's important to remove parasites and cycle with the parasite cleanses. Have an intuitive tell you how many cycles you need to do. And we can do that here through Health and Longevity. Our number is 435-986-0025, and make an appointment with Dr. Werner and we can intuit how many cycles you need to go through. We have professional products that help remove parasites, remove fungus, remove toxins, and remove viruses and the other causes for inflammation, including the glutens. So, and we have products that actually assist the organs of elimination to improve. We have a toxic detoxification program that removes all of these toxins, helps assist the organs of elimination, and helps boost your immune system through different products that have been developed through Systemic Formulas, Innovita, Standard Process, all these different companies that have made great products, but a lot of people aren't aware of them because they're so busy going to the medical doctors and getting on anti-inflammatories and chemotherapy agents and different things to control their inflammation. So my suggestion is that we get off these unnatural products, because they have side effects and toxins within them and can cause toxins to build up in our body. And so getting back to the more natural ways of healing the body and removing toxins is very important for removing the abnormal inflammatory process, because our body, inflammation is one of the stages of actually healing the tissues. But the problem is we've got all these other problems, the fungus and the parasites and the toxins that are keeping the tissues from healing. Our bodies can heal themselves if we give it the right raw materials. And having the abnormal materials, the petrochemicals and the different toxins, actually inhibits our real healing state. So as you lose weight, the fastest way to keep the weight off is remove that abnormal inflammation. So thank you for listening today, and to your health. This has been Dr. Scott Werner. Our website is choosingeasy.org, and we'll try to keep you informed of all these different things. I've had an interesting life that has led me to find all of these different things out, and went to medical school in St. Louis, where Monsanto's headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri, and I was very fortunate to be able to find out about a lot of these things through my education, through the years of being an OB/GYN, through the years of taking care of families and fathers and taking care of infertility. By the way, the biggest cause of infertility is the toxins, fungus, and parasites that get into our bodies. And if you can get these out of your bodies, you will become more fertile. So if you don't want to have kids, make sure you're using different ways, contraception. And but even the hormonal contraception has its share of toxins, and as you've seen through the lawsuits that you watch on TV and different things, different new contraceptives actually are very toxic for the body, so, and can produce chronic inflammatory states. So I'm just saying these things so that you're aware and that you know, because as you get healthier, as you lose your weight, you may become more fertile. So be sure and use contraceptives if you don't want to have children. And God bless you all, and we'll talk to you next week.